tension continues to mount in Guyana over the delayed general election results. Venezuelans commemorated the 7th anniversary of the death of the leader of the Bolivarian Revolution, Commander Hugo Chavez Frias. Presidents Putin and Erdogan have agreed to a ceasefire in the Syrian province of Idlib. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Katrina Goss. News just in from Guyana indicates that Claudette Singh, chairperson of the Elections Commission, has apparently been isolated. At this hour, Telesur can confirm that the GEOCOM offices have also been vacated. Access to Singh has been cut off. At this point, we do not know if she was taken away against her will, but she was last seen 4 hours ago. And tension is mounting by the hour at Guyana's Elections Commission as the country awaits the results of Monday's general elections. Lawyers associated with the opposition People's Progressive Party secured an injunction against the Commission, the Chief Election Officer and the Returning Officer for Region 4 from declaring the election results from Monday unless done in compliance with the law. The PPP is inviting everyone to view the tabulated statements of poll for Region 4 on a website it has established, noting that these are public documents that should be made available for public scrutiny by everyone. The party claimed that rogue elements within the Elections Commission are attempting to manipulate the tabulation of the Region 4 votes using fake spreadsheets. Up to now, there is a contradiction between the declaration and the official data, which indicates that the People's Progressive Party won. And Guyanese opposition leader Bharat Jagdeo denounced reported tampering with the election results and called for sanctions against those responsible.
And people have to be ready and mobilized because we're not going to let this pass. We're going to go through every means. International condemnation, sanctions, all the stuff, legal means and whatever it takes, even protests on the street. If we don't do this for Guyana now, we'll never get rid of this corrupt cabal. Never. And for the whole country. They're thieving an election before the eyes of the international community and trying to bully the international community by threatening to withdraw, then apologizing, withdraw their accreditation after the elections. And these are not like tiny organizations. When they go back, we're gonna face calamity in this region, in Guyana, because of this.
This has been a complicated few days. We have been waiting for the declaration of Region 4. For that declaration to take place, there is a verification process of the results.
In other news, at least 29 people have been killed due to floods and landslides in the Brazilian states of Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. Hundreds of volunteers have joined rescue workers in a desperate search through the rubble to try to find 25 people who are still missing in the cities of Guarujá, Santos and São Vicente. Rescue efforts have been hampered by fallen trees and landslides blocking several major roads. Flooding has also affected Rio de Janeiro, where more than 5,000 people have been displaced. The latest severe weather comes after more than 50 people were killed in heavy rains that devastated the state of Minas Gerais in January. Student protests continue in Paraguay to demand the resignation of Education Minister Eduardo Peta. The National Federation of Secondary Students convened protests across the nation, denouncing the minister's mismanagement of the education system and the blocking of educational reforms. Likewise, students are also demanding budget restructuring that guarantees free public education, school meals, and greater funding for technical and vocational education programs.
You, your companions, your friends work after going to study. Why? To buy everything because you don't have enough to eat? You drop out of the education system because your parents don't work. You don't have enough to eat. And what do the authorities do? They laugh in our faces. Why? Because we keep quiet. There is no democracy. There is no democracy. There is repression in schools. There is bureaucracy.
Coming up, Venezuela's marked the 7th anniversary of the death of Hugo Chavez. Don't go away. Welcome back. This March 5th marks the 7th anniversary of the death of the leader of the Bolivarian Revolution, Commander Hugo Chavez Frias. From the early morning this Thursday, Venezuelans visited the historic 4F mountain barracks, where the remains of the eternal commander of the Bolivarian Revolution rest. President Nicolas Maduro also reiterated his loyalty to the legacy of Commander Hugo Chavez, while pointing out that the path of the Venezuelan Revolution will always be guided by the ideas of Chavez. Tributes to the Venezuelan revolutionary also continue to pour in from across the world. Venezuela's Vice President of Communications, Jorge Rodriguez, revealed on Thursday details of an alleged assassination attempt against opposition leader Juan Guaido during a visit to Lara State on February 29th. Rodriguez described the allegations as a setup by Guaido himself in order to gain international attention. On Thursday, the president of the National Constituent Assembly, Diosdado Cabello, informed that the alleged assassination attempt was staged by those who support the opposition lawmaker and executed by a man named Climaco Medina, aka El Caracas, who received $400 for his performance. Cabello also presented a video where Guaido's communications manager, Edward Rodriguez, could be seen planning the staged attack.
It is perfectly clear that if anyone fired any shots during that demonstration, it was Juan Guaido's gunman. It's perfectly clear that he's complaining about the shots fired. It is perfectly clear that they hired someone called Climaco Eric Medina to show him with the revolver and get the photo Ravel needed to once again deceive foreign media. If only they had a trace of respect for the truth.
Venezuelan Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza posted a statement on his Twitter account rejecting the renewal of the executive order that accuses Venezuela of being an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States by US President Donald Trump. The executive order was first issued in 2015 by then-President Barack Obama and imposed sanctions against the country. Arreaza stressed that the order has been used to justify the series of aggressions and crimes against humanity launched by the US against the Venezuelan population. People have started boarding trains and are beginning to travel back to Wuhan, the Chinese city at the center of the coronavirus outbreak. The city of 11 million people has been largely cut off from the outside world since January 23rd, when the Chinese government started an unprecedented lockdown of central Hubei province to contain the novel coronavirus. This Thursday, China reported 31 COVID-19 deaths, bringing the total death toll to over 3,000. Chinese health authorities have also reported that more than 52,000 people have recovered from the virus. Meanwhile, almost 300 million students worldwide face weeks at home after schools were closed in more than a dozen countries to contain the virus. COVID-19 cases have been reported in some 80 countries. And 15 new coronavirus deaths were reported in Iran on Thursday, raising the death toll there to 107, while more than 3,500 cases have been confirmed. Major cultural and sporting events have been suspended in Iran and working hours reduced across the country, which is one of the worst hit outside of China. Meanwhile, schools and universities have been closed until early April. Iranian authorities have begun manning checkpoints to limit travel between major cities in order to halt the spread of the coronavirus. And the first confirmed case of the coronavirus has been identified in South Africa. The patient is a man who travelled to Italy with his wife in a group of 10 people and arrived back in South Africa on March 1st. South African Health Minister Sweli Mkhize noted that the country's health system would be tested by the coronavirus and explained that citizens quarantined in China will be returning home in the next few days.
The patient who has tested positive for the COVID-19.
The US state of California declared an emergency following its first coronavirus fatality, raising the US death toll to 11. Meanwhile, a cruise ship was quarantined off its coast after passengers and crew members developed symptoms. The US Coast Guard rushed testing kits to the cruise ship on Thursday as the number of new coronavirus cases and deaths in the United States continued to rise. 11 passengers and 10 crew members on the ship were showing symptoms on Wednesday, according to California's Governor Gavin Newsom. Around 2,500 people are on the Grand Princess ship. One of the passengers died on Wednesday in Placer County, California, representing the first U.S. coronavirus death outside of Washington state. So far, 161 cases have been confirmed across the country. The World Health Organization warned on Thursday that several countries were not showing the level of political commitment needed to match the level of the threat we all face in regard to the novel coronavirus. The comments came as the impact of the COVID-19 virus rapidly spreads. The UK and Switzerland reported their first coronavirus deaths on Thursday, while Bosnia and South Africa confirmed their first cases. Infections are now rising faster abroad than within China, with South Korea, Iran and Italy emerging as hotspots. Italy has ordered schools and universities to shut until March 15th and reported a sharp rise in coronavirus deaths, bringing a total to 148. Elizabeth Warren has ended her Democratic presidential bid after a disappointing finish on Super Tuesday. The Massachusetts senator's campaign was overshadowed by that of Bernie Sanders. Although Warren managed to gain the support of some progressives, that did not translate to enough support from the party's more working class and diverse grassroots, as seen in the Super Tuesday primaries. The Democratic contest to take on President Donald Trump is now a two-horse race between former Vice President Joe Biden and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. With votes still being counted, Democrats continue to wait for the full results of the Super Tuesday primaries.
Did you fire? I will not be running for president in 2020, but I guarantee I will stay in the fight for the hardworking folks across this country who've gotten the short end of the stick over and over. That's been the fight of my life, and it will continue to be so. So, anyone have a question?
What guidance would you give to your
supporters
who don't know who to support now?
Well, let's take a deep breath and spend a little time on that. We don't have to decide that this minute.
And our correspondent in Washington, Jorge Gestoso, brings us more details on the latest in the Democratic presidential campaign, in particular how Elizabeth Warren's departure will affect the race.
Thank you. This morning, Senator Elizabeth Warren announced that she is suspending her campaign. She said that she will take a deep breath and see what is going to be the next step. She didn't endorse any candidate. Both of them, Sanders and Joe Biden, were reaching her in order to get her approval, her support. So far, they didn't succeed. Bernie Sanders announces this afternoon that he welcomed all the supporters of Warren to his campaign. In the case of Joe Biden, in Twitter, he was praising her, saying that she is a fighter of the middle class and definitely will be more than glad to have her on her campaign. In the case of Bernie Sanders, he suspended a rally that he was thinking to do in Mississippi, given the fact that most of the Americans that voted on these primaries were showing that the African American voters are with Biden and not with him. So he moved his rally to Michigan, but Joe Biden, rather than go himself to Michigan, has been sending Amy Klobuchar to do that campaign. It's important to know that on Tuesday, 6 new primaries are going to take place, and everybody, experts in this business, the pundits, are looking very carefully to see if by any chance Elizabeth Warren before Tuesday is going to decide to whom she's going to support, eventually if she's going to support any of the two, and in that case could have an impact on those primaries. We get back to you now.
And after this break, Russia and Turkey have agreed to a ceasefire in the Syrian province of Idlib. Stay with us for more. Welcome back. Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan met in Moscow on Thursday, where they agreed to a ceasefire in the Syrian province of Idlib. After more than 6 hours of negotiations at the Kremlin, the Turkish president announced at a joint press conference with Putin that the ceasefire will begin on midnight Friday. According to sources, the two countries will carry out joint patrols on the M4 highway, a strategic hub that crosses the Syrian province of Idlib. Russia and Turkey have planned a safety corridor of 6 kilometers on each side of the highway. The parameters of this area will be defined by the two countries in the next 7 days. The agreement seeks to end weeks of intense fighting in Idlib, the last terrorist stronghold in northwestern Syria, where Syrian forces have made advances against the extremists supported by Turkey. Israeli forces demolished the homes of 2 Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. Walid Hanat Sheh and Yassan Mokamis are currently in custody and facing trial over allegations of carrying out an attack in the West Bank last year, which killed an Israeli citizen and injured another. Witnesses told local media that armed Israeli vehicles stormed into the town of Birset on Thursday and cordoned off the area surrounding Mokamis' house before tearing it down. During the demolition, dozens of Palestinians confronted armed Israeli soldiers who responded by firing tear gas and stun grenades. At least 132 people have died so far this year in Nigeria due to Lassa fever, according to the National Centre for Disease Control. Nigerian health authorities confirmed that 775 people have so far contracted Lassa fever, which has a case fatality ratio of 17%. A report from the Disease Control Centre revealed that the number of suspected cases has significantly increased compared to that reported for the same period in 2019. Nigerian Minister of Environment Mohammed Abubakar has urged Nigerians to protect their homes from rats and other rodents which commonly spread the virus. And we conclude in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where the last patient treated for Ebola has been discharged from hospital, according to the World Health Organization. The patient was discharged from a hospital in the eastern city of Beni, where joyous scenes of celebration by medical staff were seen. This is the first time there have been no active cases since the outbreak was declared in August 2018, bringing hopes that it is nearing its end. The virus has killed over 2,200 people, making it the second worst Ebola outbreak in history. The DRC has now gone 14 days without any new confirmed cases. An outbreak can be declared as over once 42 days have passed without a single new case. And we've come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Katrina Goss. Thank you for watching.